Good morning. I see you like my monkey. Sometimes when we have to talk about these issues, we almost like monkeys jabbering and talking, and today I hope to shed a little bit more light onto this issue about financing petroleum imports and the issues that come up. The cedi is a mess. It's a royal mess. And the cedi affects all of us. I mean, the mess is so bad that, when you hear the anecdotal stories coming from some of the bulk oil distributors, it's horrendous. Some have lost huge sums of money. Some have lost. And all of us, every Ghanaian in every nook and cranny, is suffering because sometimes our forecasting goes off. And because we tend to focus, because of the way the mess is, we tend to focus. Today, I'm going to look at what are the alternatives and what is the one thing we could do to benefit not just the petroleum sector, but the whole economy. My name is Joe Jackson. I'm the CEO of Dalex Finance. I'm a pioneer in software development. I dabble in a lot of marketing, and I'm a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Economists. All right. By the time we finish today, I beg to show that, of course, gold for oil, it reduces the pressure on the cedi, right? And it allows greater retention of exports. And that's one significant benefit we're all not talking about. Of course, it will reduce speculation and it will stabilize the price of petroleum imports, the petroleum products, right? I'll kickstart. The cedi is a mess. And why is it such a mess? And what can we do to mitigate the mess? That's what I'll be talking about today. The cedi is a mess. We feel it in our pockets, right? And we feel it at various levels. But here in the petroleum sector, it's a mess that impacts everything we do. Because to a large extent, the petroleum products are imported. The mess is obvious. Look, when I go down to January 2022, the cedi was 6 cedis to $1. Kept rising. By January 24th, I did 11. Then it took a steep jump. 15.1 by the end of June. Today, we're talking about 15.5 and more. 60% depreciation. I like to give this analogy. 2 years ago, if I was paid 6,000 cedis a month, I could go out and do $1,000 worth of stuff. Today, if I'm paid $6,000 a month, 6,000 cedis a month, I can barely do 400. That's the reality of the situation. So all of us have been hit. cedi is a royal mess, right? And since this quarter, it just seems to have gone haywire, completely haywire. And you can see the numbers. 9.4% depreciation in 3 months. That's just crazy. And today what I want to talk about is, why has the cedi gone crazy? Why is it such a mess? What's the problem? Listen, The common narrative says we are addicted to imports, isn't it? And everybody wants to say, how do I solve this import problem? How do I get people to import less, export more? Very simple. It says that your trade balance is the difference between exports and imports. If your trade balance is negative, there's a scarcity of forex, and the cedi depreciates. If the trade balance is positive, surplus, and the currency appreciates. You've been told over and over. And listen, I've played into that narrative in times past. And we all say, you import too much. Let's be patriotic. But I want to put out today that if you're going to solve this problem, then we've got to look deeper. And when you look deeper, the numbers don't show that we import too much. If I look at Ghana's trade balance, December, at the end of the year, from 2017, all the way to 2024, April, which is the last time we got the numbers out of, and these are numbers are from Bank of Ghana, macroeconomic and financial data. And these numbers are in millions of dollars. There's been no year where we've had less than $1 billion in a positive trade balance. So the question then becomes, why is the cedi depreciating? It doesn't make sense. And unless we look at this issue from that angle, maybe we are trying to solve the wrong problem. Because it's not just a little matter of exporting more, importing more that's going to solve, because the numbers don't stack up. This year, last year, the year before, with all our economic problems, our trade balance was positive. And so when you look at accounting for forex, all manner of things come up. You see, on one hand, there's our trade balance. Imports, exports, they sit there. But then there's also the capital account that now includes things like net FDI, debt service, which is a really big issue because we are sending out over 50% of our revenue in debt service and in transfers and in remittances. So the problem cannot be that we import too much. In fact, this economy should be able to support importing more. That's not the problem. There's something happening to the dollars that we bring in that we should look at and say, what do we do to hold on to those dollars that we bring in? Because obviously, they're just being shipped out. Look, when you look at your value of your exports, gold is now sitting on top, 45%. The oil sits second. So between gold and oil, it constitutes about 68% of all our export earnings. Cocoa beans, the rest just fall behind. So let's look at what happens in our gold and oil export sector. What happens there? Where are the dollars getting? What's happening there? And I dare say that let's look at extractive sector retention. Maybe I'll kick off with Botswana. Botswana exports diamonds, etc., and holds on to 51.8% of its revenue. So when $100 are exported, $51.8 come back to be used for the economy. Nigeria exports oil. 51.6% comes back to be used for the economy. Ghana, we export oil, 17.9% comes back. So you see that export value sitting on top of there. Less than 20% of that money comes back to be used in this country. And when we talk about gold and others, the situation is sad, really, really sad. 6.5% comes back. The bulk goes away. So maybe the problem is not exporting enough or importing too much. The problem is, how do we hold on to the money that we bring in? Because the money that we bring in is big enough. How do we hold on to more FX revenue? How do we become, and it's sad, it seems like we become politically independent 65 plus years ago, but our economy is not. And we need to drive towards greater economic independence. Look, we've got to enforce local content laws. We don't even need new laws. The laws are there already. Why is it that the richest gold mine, it's the 10th richest gold mine in the world, it sits in Ghana, Newmont. Sometimes they have to buy water from Côte d'Ivoire. What's wrong with us? Why don't we enforce those laws? It's written, the rules are written already. And I have a big one. Why do these companies who sit on oil, and why do they pay their taxes and their royalties in cedis? Don't increase the tax rate. Maybe even give them a rebate, but get them to pay in dollars. That's the truth. And for me, using cedis to buy gold for our reserves should be enshrined in the law. Then there's one. I happened to be on a local radio station, and I've been pushing this agenda for some time, and I was talking about this and trying to explain it in Tree on one of our local stations. And the presenter asked me a question, and I felt so stupid. This is a lady, and I'm struggling to explain all these concepts in Tree, and she says to me, Mr. Jackson, say in Kantitino, Obana obeye ejuma wo ye krom ha ye ebunu ni ebusa ebunu ni say den obeje asase na nya wo de asase ne beye no ye chemu ne be pie fim no ye chemu mienu nti sa wo do banche a ye chemu mienu ne ade banche wo de banche na breme na me a asase ne ye me de no makoton ye chemu miensa ebusa na bia wo de amame edenti na yenye saa wo gold and oil. Why are we not using JVs? Why are we not using production share agreements? Very simple. And he says this has been here since the time of our grandfathers. So just maybe the challenge to do with the scarcity of forex has nothing to do with exporting more. It has more with, and listen, there is absolutely no reason why companies can't start paying their royalties and their taxes in US dollars tomorrow. Why not? We're all suffering It takes a rule, it takes GRA and Parliament to do that. And we could have an immediate impact. Why not? The question is, why not? Pay your taxes in dollars. You earn dollars. I'll even give you a discount because I need the dollars. So that we can start to retain more so that the scarcity will disappear. Right? I have very little time, so I have to move on. Otherwise, I'm sure my MC will start signaling me. Listen. Look at this graph. Since 2016, gold has outperformed the US dollar by over 105%. Gold has outperformed the US dollar by over 105%. And this country sits on possibly $10 trillion in gold reserves. I mean, we could argue whether it's 10 trillion or more or less. 10 trillion is a number out there. But the number is definitely huge and dwarfs anything that we could say or talk about in oil. Listen, we have a choice. You see, we could go on as we are doing and not retaining the value, and each year complaining. Or we could say, let's change things so that you in the sector will have more forex to import. Guess what? The problem is not that we are importing too much. That's not it. Let no one ever say that. Ask them to go and look at the numbers. That's not true. We are suffering because when we export, we fail to hold the money. As a country, what we're doing would be so. If the country was somebody's company, would he export, right, and not retain ownership of the money that comes? Would you work to a margin of 6%? When other comparable countries are doing 50% margin, there's something wrong with us. There's something wrong with us. $10 trillion, it underscores the immense potential we have. And listen, if we buy gold in cities and we take that gold and use it to fund our imports, one of the things that happens is that we start to retain more of the value. Because if we wait for that gold to be exported, only $6 or less will come back. Then all of a sudden we are scrambling around. But if we deal with this issue by saying, open it up, every petroleum importing company should be able to have a program that should allow it to buy gold in cedis. Gold is gold. Gold is really gold. Whether the gold, $100 worth of gold is $100 worth of gold. If you bought $100 of gold in cedis and we exported it, that just means that is less pressure on the forex that the small forex that is coming in. That is also, more importantly, retaining more of the value in-house. Listen, for me, it's straightforward. Let's expand this program. The numbers we are doing are too small. Let's license more people to do it. Let's expand this program because lesson number one, it reduces pressure on the city. Number two, it allows for greater retention. That's clear. The little we do, we retain close to 100%. It will reduce speculation. But for my grandaunt who is living in Senyabreku, my village, it will stabilize the price of petroleum products. Listen, let's look at the last 3 months. Let's look at some of the numbers. Let's peg average demand at around $400 million. Let's peg BOG gives you maybe 40 million, give or take. The limited program we have has been delivering some amount, but we've still been going to the open market for anything up to 331 million in April, 252 million in May, and in June, 272 million. I dare say, let's expand the program. Your third line there, let's expand it. Let's change things. I'll wrap up my presentation with this quote. In the middle of chaos, there's always opportunity. The current difficulties we are going through give us pause to think. You see, ohia, omadrin. Poverty makes you a thinker. That's our opportunity to look at these numbers carefully and to go back and say, let's expand the gold. Let's expand gold exploration. Let's expand gold and let's buy it. Let's show up our reserves. Let's do things for this economy, right? Let's reduce the pressure on the cedi. Let's allow for greater retention, reduce speculation, and above all, stabilize the price of petroleum products. Thank you very much. My name is Joe Jackson.